I have this this hangout is live. Stop broadcasting. Okay. Anyway, um, I my husband had something that I needed to help him with for a minute, so I had to pause it, and I didn't realize that that turned it off. So it took me a while to get it back on, and I think the little introduction that I gave wasn't actually broadcasting, so I will tell you again um, that I'm going to start again with part 2 of my little open house. And um, I know there have been a couple people try to join, and apparently we're not doing the right thing, so we'll have to do um, some problem solving to figure out how to do it right. But it gave me a chance to remember that I wanted to show you my new sign that I have made up, and hopefully you will be able to put one of these in your yard or place of business or whatever. I designed this myself, and then they fixed up the design at Right Signs, and I just picked them up before I went on the trip to the family reunion, along with some big banners that my daughter-in-law put on her van and went to the parade for me in South Salt Lake. So I appreciate her doing that for me and passing out a few flyers. And I just want to let you know that I care about you, and that I feel that's important that we have some good conversations together and get to know each other and get to know what kind of things are important to you. I have a little bit of a sunburn, not much, but a little bit from the festivities yesterday. We had a wonderful time celebrating our family and also celebrating the 4th of July. The motel that we were staying at was pretty close to where they were shooting off some fireworks, and we didn't make it back from the reunion early enough, and so all the roads, all of the exits to go to the place where we were staying were all blocked off. So it took us a long time to get to bed last night. But the fireworks themselves were just absolutely beautiful. And it reminded me how much I do love my country and how much I love my ancestors, who I know because I've done the research to know them and know who they are. And I know what they gave up when they fought for our freedom, or they were loyalists. Some of them were loyalists, and they fought for the things that they believed in. And some of them ended up having to sacrifice a lot to bring their family to a place of good. And they happened to go up into New Brunswick area, and but I love them for, even though it was against our country, they were going by what they believed in, and I respect that, and I appreciate that they had a right to follow through with the things that they believed in. I kind of think if they knew what America would become, that they would have been more eager to fight for it. you see, I have a book here, The Making of America, by W. Cleon Skousen, and it's a wonderful book. But there are many others that have been written that I have studied, and I know firsthand by reading the stories of my ancestor how much this country meant to them, and how much they wanted us to have the kind of freedoms that we are promised in America through the Constitution of the United States. And unfortunately, it is in danger now. And we need to stand up together and fight for that freedom and the return of the constitutional principles that we were founded on. The parade that I had to miss this morning had as their theme the American dream. And I want to ensure that our children have that right. In the discussion earlier, we talked a lot about education. And that is how we can ensure that our children do have the ability to fulfill their dreams through a proper education system that will truly help them meet their needs and give them the self-determination that we are promised in the Constitution of the United States. We should never advocate our rights as citizens of the United States to enjoy the blessings of the Constitution. I'm very proud of the Supreme Court this past week, or the last few weeks, rather, that they finally made some very good decisions, I think, where I haven't been so happy about some others. But I kind of think we, as the American people, get what we deserve, because if we're not willing to stand up, then we're going to lose it. If we are willing to stand up and fight and learn about our freedoms, I hope I don't embarrass my son by saying this, but I remember him telling me at one point that some of the stuff that a prominent talk show host talked about the history of our country, and that he heard some things from him that he had never heard before. And I wondered, you know, where is the lack there? Because I actually felt that this person had brought out some things that that had happened in our country and the establishment of our country that no one else had. But they were things that as I had been doing research myself, that I had found. And I was so happy to hear this person do it. I'm not going to give his name because I think a lot of you can already figure that out. But the idea is that a lot of the history that has brought about our country is not being taught to our children. It's not coming out in the history that is taught at the schools, and that is sad. I remember looking at one history textbook in an evaluation that I had to do, and they had a whole chapter about Marilyn Monroe, but only a few lines about some of the great pioneers of our country, and founding fathers and the whole rest. You know, it seemed to feel that it was more important to see or to learn all about one individual entertainer than it was about the important people in our history. And I think that is very sad. And of course, the rewriting of history seems to be a tactic of those who want to gain control over the people. Because if we don't know our history, we are bound to repeat the mistakes of the past. Instead of taking the mistakes of the past and the good things that have happened from the past and choosing to put those things into our lives. I think a good example is the idea of slavery, that it was something that tore our country apart. Those in the North who, and some in the South too, who were very strong about that slavery was wrong. But those who had, sometimes strong religious beliefs that felt it was okay and that it was their duty to have slaves and own slaves. And unfortunately, some of them were very cruel about it. Others were more kind. But it was still wrong, and it still needed to be fixed. And we should never forget what very huge price was paid to give that freedom back. And it was a God-given right. We should never forget that either, that people, no matter who they are children of God, and they are deserving of our respect and our compassion and our willingness to help them with the things that they struggle with. And it's true for people all over the world, no matter where they come from. We need to respect them as children of God who have been given divine potential as His children. And one of the wonderful things about the United States is that it is a place where people can come from all over the world and reach a dream that they could never reach where they were. It is a special place. It is a blessed place. It is an exceptional place. And we need to get rid of the things that are wrong about it, because unfortunately those type of things are growing as people forget history, as they forget where we came from, where they forget the sacrifice that has been made by our ancestors to give us a better life. Turning back history, rewriting history is not the place that we want to go. We want to go to where our children are free to choose who they are, what they become, and how they can help other people, including their own children, to have a better life. That's what America is all about. And part of making that, I'm going to kind of go back to the discussion of what I was talking about when I had the little trouble. So I'm going to share again about my father. Remember, I was talking about how intelligent he was and how he chose to be a farmer because he wanted to raise a family in that kind of environment. But as a farmer, he was a very intelligent farmer and was known for making excellent choices in the things that he did. I used to enjoy the program called MacGyver because, you know, he would use a lot of creativity and ingenuity and get out of all of these different spots using common ordinary things to do things. Well, the original MacGyver to me was my father. He was always the kind of person that fixed things using what he had available to him. And a good example of that is a problem that he had. He was the secretary of the irrigation district in our area, a little community that we lived in. And we lived along the Snake River, and there was a part of at the head gate of the canal system that we had. It would constantly wash out and cause flooding and a lot of problems for the farmers. And everything they tried to fix it just didn't work. And my dad, being the type of problem solver he was constantly looking for ways to solve this problem. And he went up along the hill surrounding the valley where we lived, and he would often take one of us kids along with him. And so as he was up there and I was with him, he was praying about this, and he looked out over the valley, and God showed him a vision of what to do to fix this. And the answer was that he would take all of these old vehicles and he would fill them with rocks and put them along the area to hold, because everything else that they'd put there just hadn't worked. And so that's what he did. They got these old junkers and filled them up with rocks and put them out there, and they held. And the Army Corps of Engineers were amazed by this, and they used this in several other areas until they figured out a better way with stronger materials to fix this. And the reason I bring that up is that we have a lot of problems with our community, the air quality and you know, waste and different things like that. Energy is a big problem, but if we kind of use that kind of ingenuity and MacGyverism, if you will, to solve these problems, we can do it. And on my website, I have put a lot of different ideas. I don't necessarily agree with the politics of some of the people. Like, for instance, I am not a fan of a former vice president's ideas about the environment. I think there's a lot of junk science there, and unfortunately there are too many people who don't separate out that junk science from what is actually the real problem. But I don't care what their political views are. What I care about is if they have a way to solve those problems. And so there are several links in there that talk about different programs or products that might be a possibility to help us fix the problem with the air around Salt Lake City. I have problems myself with asthmatic attacks because of the air, and I have talked to a lot of people that do. The air is quite bad around this area. It's one of the most serious air quality problems around, and so it is something that we need to put our heads together to think about how we're going to fix it. But at the same time, I don't want to cause problems for people in the economy, and I think there needs to be a balance and a way to figure that out. My son has done something that I am really proud of him for doing. He's put solar panels up on his roof, and he's already having a lot of success with that as far as you know, his energy bills and stuff like that. And he has promised to give me more information so I can put that on my blog and give you more details about that specifically. He also drives a hybrid, so he gets a lot better gas mileage, and I'm jealous of him. But I do think that we need to have a lot more of those alternate and clean energies around Salt Lake City, in particular along the Wasatch Front. And there's some exciting things out there that we can do ourselves. We don't have to wait for a government program to fix it. At the same time, I feel like we need to take advantage of the fossil fuels that we have around too, but we need to make sure that they are cleaner and more energy efficient, that this different states has opportunity to use those more fully for economic reasons, as well as independence in our energy. But I do think that there's a lot that we could do in our community to put some of these clean energies into effect, and do it in a way that is doable for us financially, and will really give us a benefit. And solar energy has really been around for a while. Wind energy has been around for a while, but we can still make improvements, and they are making improvements. One of the things that's on there, and let me share that on that page. Let me pull that up so I can share it. Okay. So anyway, one of those ideas that's on here as you can see, I have a list of a lot of, and the one that I'm talking about now is the solar roadways. And you can click on these YouTube videos, and here's one that's another one that he's talking about solar roadways. And here's another one for solar roadways. And this list is going to grow as I find more of these. And they're not going to be all the same. Like this one is talking about making a solar furnace using aluminum soda cans, or pop cans as they're called around here, to build something that will keep you warm and through solar power, and is very cheap to make. And here are a couple that talk about wind turbines. These are kind of interesting to me because they're not like the windmill type. They turn around. Well, the one shows barrels that, you know, like the water barrels, the big blue water barrels that they've cut in half and fashioned them together so that they turn around vertical rather than horizontally like the normal windmill that we see. And I'm going to click on this real quick. Okay, we'll skip this ad. This is part 2 of it. I'm trying to find the part where it shows it. So, you know, that's kind of an interesting and inexpensive way to get wind power. I don't think we should use just one kind. I think we should have a combination of different resources, and of course you could do some manufacturing to do some that would move a lot more efficiently and smoothly. But even with these inexpensive things, he was able to charge up this the battery here for this lawnmower, doing some you know, it's free energy and have it be very effective. Let's go back to this one. Let's turn that one off, and let me show you, let's see. This one about the solar roadways. Okay, I'm trying to, okay, there's an example. So there's a couple of things about that. I don't want to, you know, I just wanted to give you a little taste of what these videos are like. Like I said, there's a little politics in there that I don't agree with, but I do think that there's some ideas here that we could look at to solve some of the problems that we have in our community with really some bad air days. Instead of bad hair days, we've got bad air days. And we do need to do something about it. We can't have this go on. And if we put our heads together, we can figure out ways that it'll do that. Now, the roads that they're talking about, the solar roads, let me see if I can find the one that talks about. Okay, this is kind of a flashy one. Same thing, where he's showing okay. So there's a taste of that one. And like I said, as I come upon some more of these ideas, I'll put them in. The idea is that we need to problem solve. We need to come up with new ideas to make the environment around us a better place. And we need to do it with real science rather than the junk science of Al Gore and those who follow that kind of thinking. But also, we can't go by those who want to be a stick in the mud and do it just the old way either, because the resources that we have need to be used wisely. In my faith, they talk about how the Lord prepared this earth. He created this earth with enough and to spare for what we do, but we also need to be responsible for taking care of it and making it a place that is clean and responsible. That's one of the things that my father did that I respected so much, is that he made the world around him a better place. He planted trees. He enriched the soil. He did things to help the animals be stronger and more healthy. We grew up on a dairy farm, and he developed his herd so that he had one of the best herds for milk production in the area. and he was always coming up with a better way to do this and do that. And that's what we need to do in order to solve these problems. Let's move on to another area. I haven't really written a whole lot about that in here, but I am very concerned with the well, I'm just going to call it Obamacare, because I cannot put affordable health care on a law that does just the opposite. It has really made it difficult for everybody to be able to have affordable health care that really meets their needs and doesn't break the bank in the process. And I think that there is a way to do that. I am a big fan of Dr. Ben Carson and the things that he has been saying to fix that, including the VA scandal and different things like that. So I hope you will go over and read some of these ideas, and some that I came up with myself. Anyway, Dr. Ben Carson has made some illuminating statements that we should consider as we attempt to head off the coming catastrophic crash. The titles given by those who posted these videos seem to concentrate on the narrow vision, but miss the hope and the vision that is in them. So let's look at this. Dr. Ben Carson rips into Obamacare, and he talks about the scandal of the VA, and he talks about the amazing speech of the National Prayer Breakfast. This one wasn't. These two are the ones that I'm talking about that were that talked in a negative way, narrow vision. But he actually had a lot of hope and how to fix these things and make them better. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of his, is because he doesn't just say what the problem is, he talks to you about how to fix it. So what was his solution? He said, how about healthcare savings accounts, which would be in the complete control of the owner of the account or the guardian or administrator of those who are not old enough or competent enough to handle their own. And, you know, generally that would mean a family member. So here are his mixed in with mine. First, begin the accounts at birth. And I think they should start before that, so that they would include the cost of childbirth with that. Although some of that would be included with the mother, but it is a big expense, so why not have a little bit extra in that account for that birth? Tax-free personal contributions. So tax-free contributions from employers and other interested parties, like say for instance you know of somebody that is in your neighborhood, or somebody in your family that has some major health problems that they need some help with. Well, why not allow tax-free contributions from others who have a connection with that person as well. And families could adjust how much is contributed to each family member according to the need. He did talk about tax-free. I kind of added in some of this other stuff. Give right to will or pass on the balance of the account to the family or other survivors. And I think that was one of his that I might have changed slightly, but he did talk about passing that on to your family member. Give a right to contribute to another's account from a portion of your account without penalty. So if you have built up quite a bit in your account, and again, you know somebody around you that needs that help, that you could pass some from your account into their account. Give the right to use funds for any medical service or equipment account owner desires after consultation with a healthcare provider. So that would include mental as well as medical and wellness programs. So you wouldn't have to worry about being turned down from a pre-existing condition. It would be included in your healthcare program. Continue coverage for seniors and disabled and poor by contributing available funds to their individual healthcare accounts. And then phase out Medicare and Medicaid so that that would give more control to the individuals. Continue availability of catastrophic health care insurance and specialized insurance coverage. So say for instance, if you are a football player and you're going to need to have extra coverage for those types of injuries, then specialized insurance could be used for that type of thing. Or say that you are somebody with a particularly wonderful talent, and you need to have your hands insured or something like that. Say you're a surgeon, and whatever it is that you need, your hands, that you could get that type of specialized insurance. Utilize discount clubs for dentistry, eye care, medical equipment, medication, wellness, things like that. I don't have prescription drug coverage because I am not taking any prescription medications, and I don't plan to. I've learned to deal with the pain that I have from my arthritis and the other things that I suffer from, using other methods and vitamins and different things like that. So I don't really want that drug coverage. I would rather do it through clubs that give me the right to only put in what I feel that I can afford. I received a prescription for something on my skin that, you know, it's not important to me that you know, that I have that prescription. I can deal with it in non-prescription remedies. And I was appalled when they told me the price for that medication. And I thought, you know, it's not worth it. And I should have the free agency to make that kind of choice, not to buy into a system that I think is quite corrupt. And it seems that a lot of drugs that you take, they might solve the symptom. They don't necessarily cure it, but they give you another symptom that perhaps is even worse. So, you know, we shouldn't have to pay for something that we're not going to use. Like, say, for instance, an 80-year-old man paying for for the, let's see, how can I say this without stepping on people's toes? Having to do with the abortion pills that they're talking about in the news today. We'll put it that way. Why would anybody be forced to pay for something that they do not believe in, like that, and that they don't need? Let's see, where did we get to? Eliminate cumbersome and unnecessary paperwork. I've heard so many practitioners say that they could save a lot of money if they didn't have to pay for all of this paperwork. And a lot of this paperwork is unnecessary. For instance, when I was in Head Start, there were some forms that we had to fill out several different times because that somebody came into office and they made up this new form, and so we had to redo that paperwork just to comply with the whims of this new administrator. And it didn't improve the quality of the teaching. It didn't improve the quality of the services that we were providing. All it did was require more paperwork and more time, and redoing things that really didn't have any purpose. And it's that way in a lot of the stuff that is controlled by a centralized government. Or one of my pet peeves with insurance is that you have to code it just right, and if you don't code it just right, then the insurance won't cover it. But the coding is so confusing, and that it often gets put in wrong, and that happened a lot in the last few years, that when I had some health problems that I had to deal with, is that we had to refile several different times because it was coded wrong, or some other type of reason. One thing in particular that I was suffering from, and I couldn't take the other because of another problem I had. And so I had I guess it was 4 doctors who wrote notes telling the insurance company that I couldn't take the pills that they were requiring that I take. I had to take this other version because of my problems. And they finally came back and they said, okay, you can take it, but we won't necessarily pay for it. Or they won't pay for it. And I thought, you know, why would I need their permission to purchase this if they're not going to pay for it anyway? That didn't make any sense to me. So that's when I started pulling back and saying, okay, I'm going to find a completely different way to deal with this, and I don't want any drug coverage because it didn't make sense to me at all the way that it was run. So we did. We found some things that worked fine, that were inexpensive, and reduced my, quote, dependence on prescription remedies. Health changes and different things like that can be, diet changes can do a lot to eliminate that stuff. And the other good thing about taking away that need of having those drugs is that I didn't have the other side effects. One in particular that I'm thinking about kind of makes you more confused, and I told them no, I wasn't going to take it because I needed to. It had to do with painkillers, because I needed to have my wits about me, because I was doing something that was quite intense that I needed to have a clear mind to do. And it all turned out for the good. My sister did the same thing. She started taking this medication and then found out that it did things with her mind that she didn't really like, and so she weaned herself off that and found some other ways to fix it. Okay, so on with that, the next one. Make keeping privacy laws easier by eliminating many of those who needed to be in the loop. If we had a health savings account, I wouldn't have to tell anybody about my health issues, other than, of course, those who were giving me that service, because I would be making that decision completely with the advice of my medical team. It would reform legal systems by handling malpractice or medical mistakes to discourage fraud or gaming of the system, while still appropriately providing for the needs of those that are injured. So this is the big one. This, I think, is the one area where fraud has the most likely abusers is through the malpractice or medical mistakes legal problem, and we need to put laws in place for those who participate in that type of fraud, with pretty severe consequences for their malpractice or medical mistakes. And we need to also eliminate those who would manufacture injuries and things like that, the gaming of the system, and make that more difficult for them. In Pennsylvania, when we were there were doctors leaving the area in droves because they increased the need for that insurance, and you know, it was way above their ability to handle it, and I think that alone caused a lot of the price raising of medical services. Okay, give individuals the freedom to obtain healthcare savings accounts with any financial institution that offers them, regardless of location. So notice I didn't call them insurance companies. I said a financial institution. I think that if we go to the health saving accounts route, then necessarily there's going to have to be a change in the insurance system. And unfortunately, I think one of the effects of Obamacare is that it is destroying the insurance industry. And so they're going to have to remake themselves anyway. So why not put something in place that handles things more effectively than the way it's handled now, like a health savings account that gives the control to the one who owns that savings account instead of an intermediary of either the government bodies or the insurance companies. So in their remaking themselves, they could become the financial institution that would handle these accounts while, you know, in a lawful and fair manner that would help them be successful, but still give the customer a quality product, a fair product, and one that respects their right of self-determination. Strengthen independent comprehensive consumer protection organizations to help inform us of the quality of the health care and the financial institutions offering these services for individuals and families. And then strengthen advocacy groups to help individuals resolve problems with the system. And educate the public about budgeting and effectively managing their health savings account, because that is another concern, is if we give the power to the people, are they going to be prepared to handle that? I think they will, but only if we have a good education system that will teach them things like that. One of my favorite classes when I was teaching high school, as a special education teacher, I would go into the regular classroom with my students to help support what was going on with them. And one of those classes that I got to attend with them was the business class, and the teacher had a system where he taught them how to use checkbooks and how to manage their money and budget it. And I don't think there is enough of that type of thing going on in the schools. Dave Ramsey has one that a program that he has for younger students as well as the high school students and the primary and secondary, in other words, that I think is probably very high quality from what I hear, although I haven't looked at it myself. The one that I went in with the classroom was actually donated by one of the local banks, and it was a great program. And the population of students that I worked with, it was very useful for them, because this is an area, a life skill that they needed to know in order to have more independence. So, you know, we need to have those education opportunities to teach those effective things, because unfortunately we're a nation of people that are in debt, and people that do not save appropriately and do not budget. So there has to be that put into the program. But these things are all doable, and they will save money. Instead of money going to going down the drain. When we pay our health care bills, it just makes me cringe to think how much money we are paying in, and we really don't get out of that what we put in. Whereas with the health care savings account, since you're in charge of deciding where it goes, you do have that control, and you can save or help others in a way that you could not do with an insurance system, especially the way it is now. So the key to all of these things is that self-determination that we need to have, and that is promised in the Constitution. Okay, another topic that I wanted to talk about, and I don't really have a whole lot in here right now, but I'm hoping to build this page a lot, because this is probably, next to education, one of the most important areas that I think we can use to solve problems. And that is by building on the volunteer system that we have. Some people call it crowdsourcing, like with the indexing program, where a monumentally large project can be really put in doable situation by reaching out to a lot of volunteers to help. And the indexing of records is one of those. And of course, as a family history consultant and someone who really does feel that it's important to know our family histories, all of that has been volunteer. People have tried to pay me for my services, and some of them have donated for different things. But I do this because I love people, and because that family connection is one of the most important things that I think we can have. And so I'm doing the Lord's work when I do that, and so I don't want to be paid for it. I want to volunteer to help people in any way I can, and I do a lot of that, and I'm pretty good at it. But it has been worth it. I've had some absolutely miraculous experiences doing it, and if you don't believe me, come ask me to help you with your family history, and I will show you what miraculous things can happen. Not just for me, but for you and for your family. Anyway, that is one way of volunteering, but there are a multitude of ways that people can help each other. Community gardens. I know one of the ones that I want to put on here in particular, where they help food banks and people that are needy with their community gardening volunteer group. And like one example, there was a lady who, and I'm not going to name names because this doesn't need to have names, but anyway, she was an elderly woman who did not have the ability or the funds to keep her house and yard up. And so the city came in and bulldozed her house down. And I thought, you know, what a completely irresponsible thing to do. Why not get a group of volunteers to go in and fix her home and fix her yard? That would have been so much better to do to solve that problem. It doesn't matter how long she had that problem. If she had volunteers to go in and help her do that, and continually help her to do that, because obviously as an elderly woman she wouldn't have the resources to keep it up, but a volunteer group could do that. My daughter and her family recently went down to Mexico over Thanksgiving and worked in an orphanage, and that experience for her children and for them was just a wonderful experience. They were giving of themselves. I have a cousin who wrote a book, maybe you have read it, it's called The Message. And he had he actually died, and while he was there he learned some things, and then he was brought back to life, and when he came back he was a changed person. The reason I bring this up is because one of the things that changed is their idea that they needed to serve other people. So they took a vacation, a family vacation, and this was an unusual vacation because what they were going to do is just random service to the people that they met along the way. And one of his older sons was grouncing about having to do this, and once he started doing it, once he started going out and they started cleaning up a beach, for instance, and people around them were asking, you know, why are you doing this? And he said, well, we just want to make places better than what we found them. And so the next thing you know, all of these people were around helping him and his family clean up this beach. They would go up to people that kind of looked sad and forlorn and give them a little note and let them know that they cared about them. And of course that brought smiles and happiness, and it would move on to other people. You know, because they were brightened, their day was brightened, they would brighten someone else's day. And we've heard stories about how these people would go around and give these huge tips to waitresses and waiters and different people, and how much that made them, and a lot of times it was a miraculous experience for them, because perhaps there was something that they needed money for, and here it was provided for them. So, you know, when we're talking about volunteers, the idea is that as we help others solve problems, our problems are also lightened. Our burdens are lightened, and things are better in our community. We actually learn to love each other. And that's something that a government program does not have the capability of doing. It doesn't have the capability of bringing love into the situation, of compassion. It only is a machine with facts, not heart. And I think Utah, in particular, is a very, they have a very high rate of volunteerism and reaching out. And I think even though we have a high rate, that we could be much more. We could be better friends to our neighbors. We could be a better family by serving others. In my cousin's case, the son that I was talking about that was grousing about it, he came back a total convert in service, and so he would, in school, he would go out of his way to serve others around him. And one of my favorite news stories of recent years is the different times that people with special needs were reached out to and given opportunities by the, quote, popular crowd. Like perhaps maybe somebody playing a basketball game and not being the greatest athlete, but having a heart, and they let him make a basket or something like that, including opposite the opposing teams. To me, that shows such caring and compassion. And they did it voluntarily. They didn't do it being coerced or anything like that. That's where true character is built. And I think we need to shout out and help each other to solve these problems and to take care of our brother and our sister. Because remember, we are all children of God, and we need to have that kind of compassion and that kind of caring in our lives. And this is what I would like you to help me build. I want you to help me build a list of different organizations and different programs that help volunteers help solve neighbors' problems. And they don't necessarily have to endorse me as a candidate. I'm more interested in getting the ideas out there to help us solve our problems without government intervention. The government should support these type of things, not mandate them. Okay, so right here is where you will find all of these videos that I'm going to be making, plus some other type. I plan to be interviewing people of interest who might hold office, or perhaps they are people that are big volunteers in the community. Perhaps that it's a person who has worked really hard on a particular area, and it might even be you. If you have something that you would like to be interviewed and put on this page, I would love to have you do that. There are several people that have already agreed to be interviewed by me to put on this website, and also perhaps their own. Because I'm running not because I am such a wonderful person that can do everything. I am not. But I want to connect you to people that can solve problems and can help you get the things that you need. I want this to be the best community that we have ever lived in our whole lives, and a community that will continue to be the best community. And I can't do that alone. I need your help. You can't do it alone. You need my help. Okay, so here's the page that tells you how you can help my campaign. And right here is the yard sign. Oh, where did I put it? Well, I guess I can't show you it unless I take this off this, but you saw the yard sign. Flyers, bumper stickers. Somebody suggested that a car sign would be a good thing, and buttons and t-shirts. I can't do a lot of this on what I have so far, so I will need your help to do that. I don't necessarily want to have a lot of money, because as I put on the other stuff, I want to make sure that the money that is given here doesn't go to waste, that it has a specific purpose that you can be comfortable with. I'm doing a lot of things that are free, so that money can be spent in ways that are more important. So say, for instance, you can help me by having a cottage meeting. You can have an event with me, or a picnic, or a Google Hangout. You can help me by distributing flyers. You might even print some of those out yourself. I will send out emails that include PDF or images of that so that you can print it out yourself. You can help me by creating YouTube videos. One of the things that I want to do to help change education is to make a more effective way to handle student loans. I think it's a sin that the government is encouraging student loans that are huge and put our graduates in a lot of financial peril because of the huge student loans that they have. And student loans and debt put us into slavery. They really do. And so when I was talking earlier about slavery, I think that slavery with debt is immoral. And so I want to do something to change that. And one of the ideas that I have is that we develop a way for people to volunteer to help businesses, to help political campaigns, to help you know, some of the other volunteer things that we were talking about before. and to earn credit towards getting a college scholarship, or directly getting donations from the businesses, for instance, for a college fund. For families, and including young children, of having a way to earn money that they can put in an educational savings account. And I want to start that with my business that I'm establishing, as well as in my campaign. And one of those is to offer that that students who, and this could be like college or younger age students, who would create YouTube videos for me that I could use in my campaign. And rather than paying somebody large amounts of money to make these expensive ads, and they could donate their services and get credit towards earning a scholarship. Now, of course, in order to do that, I'm going to have funds in that organization. And so rather than having it directly go to me, I would like to encourage people to donate to this college fund that I'm talking about. And we are going to be organizing it into a formal system. I just need to talk to some people that know what they're talking about to make sure that it's good and strong and can do what it needs to do. I have described with the educational service that I'm going to be establishing, I would like to have college students in particular to help me develop the curriculum and develop the materials kind of as an assignment in their classrooms, and then at the same time earning credit for their education. We just need to work out the details. The idea is to bypass the government system of student loans and replace it with their own funds and their own scholarship ability to pay for their education. Double dipping in education, I call it. So it gives more purpose for the assignments that they would have, and something that obviously would benefit their education in the long run, as well as the education of their family members and their community. But I need, in order to have those things happen, and I've already had discussions with different people at the university level, that we can kind of do some of those things, put those things in place. I am very big on helping each other to make this a better world. Okay, now some of these other things I haven't really gotten into too much, but of course taxes and spending, if you've kind of been paying attention to my other discussions about fundraising and using money the way we have seen government agencies really misuse our money, and criminally, I would say, misusing our tax dollars and spending in ways that are absolutely off the wall, wasteful, and I think they need to be held accountable for that in much stronger ways than they're not being held accountable. That's the problem. Maybe a few people are suspended or whatever, or lose their jobs, but not their pensions. And I think that needs to change. So when it comes to taxation and the budgets and other things that government agencies have, including Utah, we need to have some changes that make taxes more fair and the spending more efficient and right on target. And I think a lot of that can be done by eliminating a lot of government, meaning, say for instance, the House or the Department of Education can be shrunk considerably, both on the national level and on the state level. If they are worried about the things that they should be worried about, rather than taking away our rights as parents and grandparents and teachers to teach the students that we have and children that we have. So a lot of that type of spending can be reduced, while at the same time increasing the ability of the population to make money so that they can pay more taxes. We need to do some major overhauls in that way. And of course, let's see, we've talked a little about self-determination, but that's an important issue. And these aren't the only issues that I want to talk about. I want you to share some of your concerns that you have and how you think we can solve some of those problems. I will be holding more of these Google Hangouts. Hopefully the word will get out and we'll be able to get together on these and discuss some of these things, because this isn't about me. This is about you and having a happier family. So anyway, that kind of covers what I have on the website. I need to share this with you, though, I guess, because this is an area where I have a quite different idea of what it means to be a candidate for an office, and what my responsibility as a candidate and eventually an office holder is to you. And on here, I've been, over the last 8 years, I've served as a precinct chair, county and state delegate, and then Senate district chair. I'm still a secretary of the precinct, but I am not giving up responsibilities that I had for instance, I was appointed as one of the chair people to start the TARS program in our county. I co-chair that with another person, Ben Thompson, or is it Johnson? Just kidding. Anyway, we're trying to involve more students in, or teenagers in, the political process, not just because we want the volunteers, but because we really want to help them understand the political process and how they can be effective voters, how they can be effective leaders in politics, so that we can engage our youth. I think as I've gotten to know other teenagers who are involved in TARS, it just gives me so much hope for our future, because they are wonderful, and we just need to extend that and make that grow in our community. Also, in some other, in particular family history, I've found that they are able to do things that we as older people couldn't possibly imagine doing. They're almost, well, some of us call it a technology gene that they have been given. It's built into their DNA. It's an amazing thing to see them work. And as more youth are getting involved in family history and indexing projects, I've seen them blossom with their love for their ancestry and their family. But anyway, getting back to that, this My Ideal campaign is, or candidate rather, is that as I've watched other candidates and really gotten to know them, I want to know how they think and how they reason, how they make decisions, what their values are, and how they deal with people who don't necessarily agree with them. And so what I did is I would send this long letter or email asking them questions, and I would explain how I felt about certain things, and then we would have a discussion either in person or over the phone, or they would reply to my email. And you know, some ignored me, but you know, that's all right. The idea was that I was more interested in how they did things than and the character they had than any kind of canned speech they gave. And I don't do canned speeches very well, as you can tell through this rambling discussion. I want it to be a real person. I want to know you as a real person and know how you feel. So this is how I described my ideal candidate. I've been trying to determine whom I can feel excited about voting for and working for as the most effective candidates to win election in their various offices. Because of my limited funds and energy, as I struggle with a disability, I want to make sure my humble efforts are spent wisely. I'm not so concerned about whether you agree on all issues, but on the integrity, leadership, and vision I see demonstrated by the candidates. It is more than just being a wholesome person. It is the ability to inspire those qualities in others, or having the ability to communicate well with others, listening to them. Notice I'm not saying that they need to be a great speech maker. I'm not interested in that. I want people who will really listen to the person that's talking with them. You. I want them to listen to you. Okay, so listening to them and recognizing the value of their thoughts and desires and helping them solve problems in the most constructive and helpful way. The primary reason for the anger of the American people against our national government is that they ignore what we really want in favor of trying to solidify their power over us. They treat us with tremendous disrespect and disdain and continually try to obfuscate and destroy. I want to support someone who sees being a good communicator as someone who truly listens, not someone who can give a powerful speech. I want to vote for a candidate who, once they have made their thoughtful determination as to which course is right and best, they will be determined to fight for that decision, no matter how much pressure is yielded by corrupt and unscrupulous leaders and institutions in our society. I am hoping that you will fit this description, not only to get elected, but until the last day you hold office and beyond. Let me interject here that my father-in-law was a state senator in Pennsylvania, and you could describe him definitely as one of my ideal candidates. He was a very honest man, and he cared for the people. If he had the ability to remember your name, if he had met you once, and I don't have that ability, but he did, and he was really someone who stuck to the principles that he believed in. And he was quite disturbed when a good friend of his and his governor at the time offered to bribe him to pay off certain things for him if he would vote in a way that the governor wanted him to. And it just kind of went to his very core, and really he went out into the woods behind where he lived and he bawled because he was brokenhearted that his friend and someone he respected would do something so dishonorable and dishonest. And the bill unfortunately passed without him, but he did not change what he believed in. And that's the ideal I'm looking for, is that I want to be honest, I want to be true to the things the principles that I believe in. And no type of influence is going to get me to change. I don't care what political party or how much money that person has. I will not buy. You cannot buy my vote. So here's the ways that I promise you that I will be that kind of candidate. One is that I really feel that it's an obscene amount of money that we spend in political campaigns, as I've mentioned before, and it seems to go down a black hole and is totally wasted. And we need that money for so much better purposes than that. And the other thing that bothers me is the negative campaigning. I will not participate in negative campaigning. I don't care if my opponent decides to do that. I'm not going to come back in that kind. I will make sure that I clarify things that come out or that are untruthful, but I am not going to tell you what a skunk I think he is or she is, because it's more than just the two political parties. There's 4 that are running different offices that are running for this seat, and I want to show respect to all of them. I think, unfortunately, those with the highest offices are the most guilty of lying to us and filling us with garbage and fighting back in ways that are totally childish and gross and inappropriate. Nancy Pelosi and Senator Reid are really good examples of what I'm talking about with negative campaigning, as they throw out these outrageous accusations and lies about their opponents, and it's in both parties. You know, it's not just the Democratic Party, it's both parties that are more akin to a wrestling brawl or a bar fight than they are to a thoughtful communication with someone that disagrees with you. Recently, somebody asked me what I was going to do to argue with my opponent, and meaning not necessarily the election here, but my opponent when I'm trying to resolve an issue. And what I told him is that I will listen to their arguments, and then I will make my decision and stick to it and solve the problem. I'm not interested in winning an argument. I'm interested in solving a problem. And I think the more we argue, the less problems are solved. And I don't want a solution that is going to cause more problems. And I will, explain those things, but I am not someone that is going to sit there and argue about an issue. I think generally when you get in that situation, the one person knows they're right and the other person knows they're right, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to change their mind. I was talking to a woman recently, and she was explaining something, and I said, well, no, that's not quite right. I know this because they've found this. It's happened. And she says, well, I don't believe it. It didn't matter whether I showed her the proof or not. She was not going to believe that because it didn't fit in her paradigm of things. So I am not in this to win an argument. I'm in this to solve problems. And of course, that destructive and negative campaigning and the obscene amounts of money lead to the third problem that I feel there is: the uninformed voters who make poor choices. And I think that the negative campaigning and this throwing good money after bad has fueled the political corruption and the exploitation of the voter, to the point where they're like puppets and lemmings and all of the other things that you might say, descriptions that you might give for people who have given away their ability to make wise choices. So this is how I'm going to solve those problems. My campaign will be as frugal as it can possibly be. I'm going to be opting instead for creativity. I did all my designing of my website, for instance. I designed my signs with a little help from the people that did the printing. And I have been trying to do as much as I can for free. But I need your help to be able to do those things at the cheapest way. And of course, I'm not going to waste any energy on negative or destructive campaigning, and will disavow any such action by those who claim to support me. If my opponent chooses to do that behavior, I will not respond with the same. And like I said before, I will clarify the facts and proclaim the truth. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to acknowledge that I've made a mistake. And then we're going to move forward to correct the errors. It is very important to me to provide children of this nation with positive examples of kindness, respect, integrity, and determination. Voting is one of the most important duties that we perform as citizens of the United States. And because I recognize that being well informed is equally important, I think it's a duty for me to provide them with good communication to help those decisions be well informed. And I'm hoping that by my doing the best I can to be the kind of candidate I want to see, that you will be pleased with what you see and vote for me when it comes to November. I do need your support in any way that you can to help me to accomplish this. It's not something I can do on my own. Okay, so then this page, so we're talking about voters. This is information to help you know where the people in Legislative District 35 are and what your precinct is. There's maps connected to each of these precincts, and then this is an interactive map that you can use to locate it in your area. If you want to register to vote, here's a link for you to do that, and that includes absentee registration. I kind of like being an absentee or a voter who gets the ballot early, so that I can have an opportunity to really study out the people that I'm voting for. And I get my vote in early, and then that way when it comes to registration, or the time for the the vote to election day, if something comes up, I don't have to worry about missing my vote. But you can also use that in other ways, and they will talk about it on that website. And of course, if you've moved or you've changed your name in any way, married or whatever, then you can update your registration. Once you have registered to vote, then you can go to this other website to check on your status to make sure that they've got you recorded in there and with the right party affiliation and on all of that stuff. You can also view a sample ballot, and you can find your polling locations. So I'm hoping that that will help you with your voting decisions. Oh, ooh. This is my political Facebook identity. You'll see a lot of things about Common Core in here because that's one of my concerns. Of course, just because these things pop up on here on Facebook doesn't necessarily I agree with them all, but they do kind of fit there. Here's a lady that I am excited to have running for Congress. She kind of has a lot of ideals that I respect and I would like to put into. One of her ideas, of course, is to be fiscally responsible, and she took Saratoga Springs and into a bankrupt system into working in the black, and she involved volunteer programs to do that, like say for instance their library, rather than having it paid for by the city, it's run by volunteers, and she didn't want to keep them from having these services, but she wanted to make sure that they were sustained by a willing public. And so the volunteer system coupled with wise fiscal management really does work. This guy right here has been working to fight Common Core, and he has some pretty interesting things to say about that. He's somebody that I will probably interview sometime. We've had discussions about that. Let's see. Well, anyway, I'm not going to go any farther than this, but you can kind of see some of the groups that I belong to. and some possible people that I might be interviewing. So you can. I just want you to know that you can contact me through Google Plus, or contact me through Facebook as voter Eileen Lentz. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to shut off screen sharing. And we can talk face to face. Just a couple of points that I want to make before I leave is that I think the family is the key to saving our nation. And over the last week is the Supreme Court decision about the abortion pills, that even in small businesses or business entities that are close, held close in close relationships, that their religious freedom ensures that they don't have to pay for things that they really don't believe in, like the abortion pill. And we've heard a lot of rhetoric about war against women, but which I don't really think exists. I think it's more that there's a war against families. As they continue to take away the rights of families and try to push collectivism and other things that destroy families, I think there is a real war on family, and we need to stand up and protect the family and strengthen it. And we do that through education. We do that through being kind to each other. We do that by reaching out and serving one another. We do that by being good to our families ourselves and treating our family members with respect. We do that by honoring the covenants and the integrity of our own families. There's nothing more important to me than my family, and that's why I chose to go to the family reunion yesterday rather than attend the parade in the community. My mother died in 2005, and my father died in 1991. But I feel like I have them with me forever. They influence my life every day. But even more than that, I know their mother and their father. I know their grandfather and great-grandfather, because I have done the family history to know them, and I've researched and studied out who they were. I listened to the stories that the people from our family told me as I was growing up. And it made me a stronger and better person. In fact, research shows that one of, or the most important thing to develop the resiliency of a person is to connect them to their ancestry, their family, their culture. One of the other things that I think that we need to put into our education system is a way of incorporating that into our education. And I have some ways to do that. For instance, one of the programs that I had was having a recording of some kind from the family about their family history, about their family story, about their culture, and the student taking that and writing the story. And then, say for instance, if they are from another culture, have a different language, it could be translated so that we have both the English version and the version from their culture. And these stories would be written by the student with help from their family and the teacher and whatever, and put in a book, printed for them. It would be, a copy of it would be put in the school library, and if with my new publishing company, if they are of high enough quality, then we might contract with them to publish their book. And then also incorporate that into the education curriculum. For instance, we were talking earlier about how I knew my ancestors from the Revolutionary period. I knew my ancestors from the Civil War period. I knew my ancestors that came across the plains. I knew my ancestors who were in Maine and helped with the development of that area, and up in New Brunswick and in Ontario and Iowa and England and some of the other places that they were from. I know their stories because they have been passed down to me, or I have researched them out. And so when I learn our own history, when I learn the nation's history, when I learn the history of the state that I grew up in, when I learn the history of Utah, it means so much more to me because I have a personal connection to that history. It isn't just something that happened to a bunch of old dead people. It happened to me. It happened to my blood. So when I hear that radio commentator talking about this history, I know that it's true, because my ancestors and my husband's ancestors went through that. That's what I want to give to the students of this nation. That I want to give them in the local school districts and in the homeschooling and in the private schools and charter schools and whatever other kind of school that they're in. I want them to have that blessing of their family history in their education. My 3 oldest grandchildren are also family history buffs. And they've been that way for a long time. I remember one time my oldest grandchild, he was maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, something like that, and the other kids, younger kids, were watching a video, and they kept asking him to come and watch it with them. And I was in doing some family history, and he said, "No, I want to watch what Grandma's doing." And he really started making his own charts and his own recordings until I showed him how to do a lot of this stuff. And his younger sister a few years ago came to me and asked me to bring her into the loop because she wanted to learn about family history. And so I see what a light it brings into their life and how it makes their learning better. And I think that needs to happen in the schools that we are having. When I was teaching in high school, we had a family history club, and we would go around and you know, transcribe cemeteries and take pictures and go to the museums and stuff like that. And so it wasn't just because I belong to a church that values family history. I was the only member of that church that was in that high school, but there was a lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of students that wanted to be involved with family history too, and they were. And it really does make a difference in the learning and in the cohesiveness of their education, the wholeness of their education. Well, we have 15 minutes. I think I'm going to let you, let's see, where is it? Did I close it? No, I didn't. Okay, I'm going to let you watch the end of a video that I was given permission to post from the Sutherland Institute. That talks about family as a governing body. Okay, I want to make sure that there is a disclaimer on this. Sutherland Institute is an independent, nonprofit, nonpartisan public policy educational organization which does not endorse candidates or parties. The use of the Sutherland material by a candidate or a party is not an endorsement of a particular candidate or party and should not be considered such by viewers or implied as such by the entity using Sutherland Institute material. So I want to make sure that that's there. But the point is, here is that this is what we need to build our freedom on, is that family structure as the governing body. And that's the way our Constitution works best. That's how our society works best. Okay, trying to think. There was one other thing that I wanted to show you. Oh, now if I can remember where it is. I want to develop this one before I discuss it more. We'll do that one at another time. No, it's not that one. Oh, I wanted to show you an example of how I put learning skills and moral education into the reading instruction. So anyway, this is a little story that I wrote to teach some kids honesty. They literally did not have a clue what honesty meant. They were known for stealing things from the classroom, not just mine, but others, and they were not very honest in other ways either. So anyway, we had a unit on honesty, and this is one of the stories that we had for it. So we're talking about students who were in 3rd grade, but who read at a much lower level. So Rachel and Tawny sat in front of the principal's office. They were in big trouble. They had been accused of cheating on a science test about earthquakes. 5 students that sat close together had exactly the same answers. Maria, Wendy, and Jessie had already been to the office and were in detention right now. One of the 2 students in front of the office didn't do it. All of the rest of the students had copied off of her paper. The principal was going to have to be very wise to tell which one was telling the truth. The student that was cheating was very good at con game. Rachel was called in first. She hung down her pace when she came into the room. She even had eyes full of tears, but she didn't say anything. She just sank in her big chair in front of the desk. Then the principal asked her to explain what had happened. "Honest, I didn't do it," Rachel whined. "All of the others did it. I saw them looking back at my paper several times, and they were even whispering. I heard them talk at recess about how they were going to cheat off my paper. Honest, I didn't do it." "I always do what Mrs. Nathan tells us. She is a very good teacher, and I listen to what she says all the time. Tani never listens to the teacher. She pretends to so she won't get in trouble, but I know she doesn't really listen at all. Okay, Rachel, can you wait out in the front of the office while I talk to Tani? The principal asked. Rachel gave Tani a very strange smile when she passed her. Tani was puzzled by it, but she just sighed and went into the principal. She was very nervous. She took a deep breath and silently counted to 8 to calm her nerves. And then she explained what happened. I had practiced the homework questions Mrs. Nathan gave us last week. My mom quizzed me when we ate supper. I'm not sure what happened with the other kids during the test. I was busy trying to remember my answers. I'm really surprised that we all came with the same question, or with the same questions right. Honestly, I didn't cheat. I want to learn and try to do all of my homework. So if you were the principal, which one would you believe? And then there are a set of questions to help them develop that. These words are all words that fit in the same lesson, the same, what's the word I want? My mind went blank. Anyway, the phonic and the word, or the different types of elements of reading as this other story that was written, but it has this theme of honesty with it. And then here is what goes home, so that the parent can read through this and time their child for fluency, and then also discuss with them about the meaning of the story and what's important about this. So it includes the family in the moral education of their child, which is where it should be. But it includes it in the school setting so that the child sees that it's consistent with what is taught in the home. And therefore it has more strength and more power to develop those things for them. The child is also given a comprehension packet. Let's see. This one is an example of another unit that we did about how the brain remembers. And they're given this packet to go along with their discussion, which includes some comprehension strategies and comprehension questions with it that the child can share with their parent when they go home. As part of being their own best teacher, of course, they're trying to teach these principles that they've learned in school to their parents, who probably will already know this stuff, but it kind of is a review of these materials so that the child learns them better. And you can see that there's quite a few different things: phonics, language, English, grammar, as well as the comprehension strategies and learning strategies that they have to work with. So the idea is not just to fill this in, but also to interact with their parents and their siblings about these things, so that it's a constructive and family involving activity, not just something that they do separately at school. Whoops, went back to the wrong one. Oh, that's because I have to go back here. And I've run out of time, so I guess I'll be closing down. I guess I'll get to that other video that I was going to show you at a later time. So until our next open house, we'll talk to you later. Bye.